As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic made an international impact on traffic safety and the way that traffic safety is enforced on roadways across our nation and across our state. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, speeding killed 9,478 people nationwide in 2019. In Tennessee, there were 7,812 traffic crashes in 2019 related to speeding or aggressive driving behaviors. 155 of those crashes were fatal. Last year, in 2020, when COVID-19 lockdowns were in effect, there were 7,964 traffic crashes in Tennessee related to speeding or aggressive driving behaviors. 170 of those crashes were fatal. There are many risks and consequences associated with speeding. Speeding drivers are almost 3 times more likely to be involved in fatal or serious injury crashes. Speeding lowers your reaction time, increases the risk of losing control of your vehicle, reduces the effectiveness of occupant protection equipment, and threatens the safety of every roadway user around you. Schools are opening back up. More pedestrians are going to be using our roadways. So it's very important that we educate our drivers to keep everyone safe. So let's go ahead and introduce our panel. Our first speaker is Colonel Keith Watson with Memphis Police Department. Welcome, Keith. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Doing very well. Very excited about the show today. Let's go ahead and bring on our second speaker, who will be Lieutenant Michael Gilliland of Metro Nashville Police Department. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Very excited to have this conversation today because we know that speeding has been a major issue on our roadways. So let's kind of get to know you guys a little better and then dive into the conversation. Keith, tell us about you.
So I'm Colonel Keith Watson, Memphis Police Department. I have 29 years on the job here in Memphis, Tennessee. I specialize in everything Memphis, pretty much. Emergency management to the large events that we have here in town, which, as you know, also consists of traffic and traffic mitigation.
Wonderful. Michael, let's hear about you.
I'm Lieutenant Michael Gilliland, the Traffic Section Commander for the Metro Nashville Police Department. I've got 29 years of law enforcement experience here in Metro Nashville, and I specialize in data analysis and program implementations.
Wonderful. We're very happy to have these subject matter experts because these are the individuals that see it day to day, how dangerous this driving behavior can be and the impact on our communities. So let's start the conversation about Nashville. Michael, can you tell us how bad is speeding in the Nashville area?
Well, anybody who uses our roadways will know that over the past several years, speeding has gradually increased here in Davidson County. In 2020, of those 1,068, 25 of those were fatal crashes. And currently, year to date, we are looking at about 580 total crashes involving with speed as a contributing factor. 12 of those have been fatal crashes.
The faster a driver is going before a crash, it's less likely that driver be able to apply the brake, slow down to a survivable speed. It depends on the particular trajectory of that vehicle that's involved in that crash that we're talking about or speaking of.
So if the vehicle is traveling at 70 miles per hour, the occupants inside of the vehicle are also traveling at 70 miles per hour. So if the vehicle suddenly comes to a stop and you're not wearing a seatbelt, then your body continues to travel at 70 miles per hour into the dashboard, the wheel of the steering wheel of the vehicle. Inside our bodies, even if you are wearing a seatbelt, those high-speed crashes, nothing stops your organs. So they're traveling at 70 miles per hour when they slam into your skeletal system inside of your body. And we see many injuries from the autopsy reports where you'll have tearing of aortas and stuff like that from where the heart was traveling so fast.
In 2020, when things began to close up, people were safer at home. Many of the businesses were not open or operable for business. many drivers, many of the car enthusiasts began to commit violation of traffic laws by doing tricks, which consisted of donuts, and that's taking a vehicle and going in circular motions while applying the brake and the gas pedal. Social media played a big part in these stunt acts by the passengers or participants that were present during these different times or events that occurred here in Memphis were filming these acts. So the more footage that was shared on social media, on other platforms that may be available to those drivers, it grew interest. And with interest, it grew crowds. So we began to see on a coordinated basis meetup spots being announced, flyers being distributed, and motorists meeting up on various places throughout the city where there may not be pedestrian traffic on the large private parking lots and commit reckless acts of endangerment utilizing vehicles and some of their technology on their phones to record these acts and broadcast them either live or edit them for some type of entertainment purpose.
Michael, have you seen any of these intersection incidents in Nashville?
Yes, ma'am. We've seen quite a few of them. We started seeing it last year in 2020 as well, and we began initiatives in order to combat that type of activity. We see it initially began with actually drag racing up on the interstates. Even further back in time than 2020, we actually had an interstate takeover on 24 where they line up across all lanes of traffic and they just slowly bring the interstate to a standstill. And then cars will get out in front and they'll do the burnouts, they'll do the donuts, and then they'll drag race down the interstate. We've seen them take over intersections, what they call the pit. They'll form a circle around an intersection, take control of all directions of travel in the intersection, and then one car will get in the center and they'll just do donuts and just spin around, power braking and so forth. Most recently, during the July 4th weekend, they added gunfire and fireworks to that. So you have a lot of folks standing around, like the Colonel said, they're videotaping this. They're getting relatively close into the intersection to videotape and get close-up shots, which places them at risk.
As we talk about this in our discussion, just one important fact that I like to bring out, that if during the time any of these acts are occurring and there's an injury, a serious injury to any participant or bystander, we move from moving violations to actual criminal charges to be placed on those responsible for supervising or even arranging these particular stunt acts of drag racing and other violations of the law. Many of those houses in the older neighborhoods are closer to the pedestrian areas of the sidewalk. So if you have a vehicle that's excessively speeding throughout the neighborhood, the operator of that motor vehicle loses control and that vehicle finds itself leaving the roadway and causing impact to any type of home or structure. Some of those structural integrity features of the home collapse. Thus, what we have is innocent bystanders, innocent citizens that are in their homes, that may be watching TV, working from home at the computer, or even sleeping, falling victim to several things that are happening or occurring on the roadway that's lasted several miles within that individual neighborhood.
That is a lot of very important information. So then what would you advise to drivers to help reduce the speed related issues and the aggressive driving?
So we really want to educate the public, make them aware of the different infractions that we see lead the way in these vehicle crashes, unsafe lane changes, relying too much on the smart cars. Please utilize your blind spots. Look over your shoulder, your left and right side as you operate these motor vehicles. Following too close, tailgating, which also leads to some sort of road rage, and not obeying the traffic laws. We all want to make it home safe. So we ask each and every motorist to be considerate of the other roadway users when they go about their day. And so we all can obey the law and make it home safe to our families.
Thank you so much. Michael, did you have some final thoughts for drivers as well?
Yes, I'd just like to ask all the drivers out there to be aware that it's every one of our obligations to drive in a safe manner. And we need to make sure that we understand that every action that we take on the roadway positively or negatively impacts the other drivers on the roadway. And I'd like to remind everybody that driving in the state of Tennessee is a privilege. It is not a right.
This now concludes today's episode of Talking Traffic Safety. Remember to always drive focus, buckle up, never drink and drive, and slow down, y'all. When speeding kills, it's never an accident. Take care and drive safe.